From a smoky cabin in India that forced this plane to make an emergency landing, and violent crosswinds in the UK that required some complex landing maneuvers, to a plane that slid off the runway in Chicago during a heavy snowstorm, and much more. Here are some of the scariest plane moments ever caught on camera. On June 7th of 2006, a Tradewinds Boeing 747 tried to take off in wet and rainy conditions. It was a cargo plane en route from Medellin, Colombia to Miami, Florida. According to reports, they were carrying a cargo bed full of flowers. During takeoff, the 5-person crew noticed the engine gas temperature warning light come on. Then, to make matters worse, the engine encountered even more technical problems. Since flying wasn't an option, the pilot decided to hit the brakes. CCTV cameras outside the airport capture what seems like a normal rainy day. Some guys meander around a truck when suddenly, the camera jerks right. Our Boeing comes into frame. It's going way too fast for so little runway. It eventually skids off the tarmac and crashes into the grass. The aircraft was damaged beyond repair. Thankfully, all 5 crew members were safely evacuated and unharmed. Our captain was between a rock and a hard place. Engine failure meant takeoff was out of the question, but overrunning the runway was unavoidable. So, he did the safest thing he could think of and put the plane in the wet grass. If you've ever been on a plane, you've likely experienced turbulence. The plane rocks a bit and you grab your armrest, but then it's over in a few seconds. Usually, it's not that bad. Passengers on board Ryanair flight FR 1435 from Dublin to Brussels might disagree with that assessment. On July 3rd of 2014, their plane hit one of the worst turbulence pockets ever recorded. You could feel how on edge everyone was as the plane rocked up and down. There were definitely a few people who panicked, thinking this was the beginning of the end. But what is turbulence, and how dangerous is it? In general terms, turbulence is when calm skies are disturbed by a chaotic stream of air. They can occur anywhere, but are most common near mountains, jet streams, and storms. Thankfully, turbulence is not dangerous. Between 2009 and 2021, there were only 30 passengers severely injured by turbulence, which is minuscule compared to the millions of people flying daily. As you can guess, most of those passengers weren't wearing their seatbelts or were up when they weren't supposed to be. According to NPR, it's unheard of for turbulence to cause a plane crash. On December 8th of 2005, Southwest Flight 1248 wound up in the middle of a busy intersection. The plane had just left Baltimore and planned on landing in Chicago. From there, they were supposed to fly to Salt Lake City and finally Las Vegas. But a heavy snowstorm over the Windy City threw everyone's plans off. The 1-year-old Boeing 737 was carrying 103 passengers during the flight. The captain, 59-year-old Bruce Sutherland, was a 26-year Air Force veteran with over 15,000 flight hours as a pilot for Southwest Airlines. Captain Bruce circled the area around Chicago Midway several times before attempting to land. The snowstorm reduced visibility to less than half a mile. Even with 8 inches of snow on the ground, Bruce tried to land the plane. According to an incident report, the co-pilot received clearance to land from air traffic control. The runway was clear, but a plowed runway is still a slick runway. The plane skidded upon landing, and the nose gear collapsed. Captain Bruce pressed the brakes as hard as he could, but the plane was out of control. It kept sliding, overran the tarmac, and wound up in a busy intersection. Imagine turning onto the road and seeing a crashed plane up ahead. You might think the world is ending. The Boeing hit 3 cars and sadly claimed the life of a 6-year-old boy. The National Transportation Safety Board cited psychological pressure to complete their assigned task as one of the many factors. They could have landed 10 minutes away at Chicago O'Hare, which had longer runways. In fact, another Boeing 730 did just that about 9 minutes before 1248 crashed. But that would have caused huge headaches for Southwest. Remember, Flight 1248 had 2 other stops to make. On December 11th of 2018, passengers on board Indigo Flight 6E237 held their breath for dear life. The Indian airline was en route from Jaipur to Kolkata with 136 people. But then, about 45 miles from their destination, the cabin began filling with smoke. The pilots sent a mayday call saying they needed to make an emergency landing. As they came down, a few passengers pulled out their phones to record the harrowing incident. The Airbus A320 landed safely and deployed the emergency slide. Passengers rode down, where firefighters and paramedics waited to treat anyone suffering from smoke inhalation. In an official statement, Indigo said everyone was okay after the plane landed. However, their choice of words was a little strange. They said the plane had to make an emergency landing because of suspected smoke in the cabin. Several viral videos confirmed there was definitely smoke filling the plane. Now, we're not sure what caused the smoke to fill the Indigo plane. When something similar happened to a Delta flight in May of 2018, it was because a small amount of hydraulic fluid leaked onto the auxiliary power unit. October 24th of 2020 was a windy day in the UK. At the airport in North Somerset, plane spotter Archie Bailey watched several flights battle a violent crosswind as they came in for a landing. Runway crosswinds can make for rough landings. Thankfully, all of these pilots were trained to deal with it. There's a reason it looks like the planes are landing sideways. That's because they are, sort of. In flight, the wind will push a plane in whatever direction it's blowing. This is called drift. Strong wind equals more drift. If the plane aimed straight ahead for the runway, the wind would push it off course and into the grass, or worse, another plane. So, pilots used a crab landing technique to battle the crosswind. They turn into the wind, effectively fighting against it to keep the plane on course. Then they straighten out right before hitting the tarmac. You can see where the term crab landing comes from. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another one just like it, then click the link on screen now. With that, thanks for watching and be sure to tune in next time.